Hello and welcome to our Startup with Ferris live stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. So, what's new in the world of entrepreneurship? Today, we conclude our series on pricing strategies and models. We covered 7 pricing models. Now, which one is it that you want to choose? Which is it? Which one is better for your business stage that you're at now? That's what we will cover today. I will share with you a matrix, a pricing matrix that will help you identify which model is a better fit for your business phase today and which one you want to adopt maybe in a month or two or in a quarter or two. Because if you adopt a complex model too early, you might be overwhelmed, you might not be able to deliver based on that model. And also, if you delay transitioning to a more lucrative model, you'll miss out on on some precious revenue. But before we dive into the pricing models and the pricing matrix, as always, I want to start us off with a story from a couple of founders I spoke with in the last couple of weeks. One was a technical; he's in tech, and another founder, he's more on the creative side, into art, and they both are trying to leverage AI in what they're offering to their clients, and they're doing well. They have a one of them have a they have a few employees and a number of clients. Another one is on his own, and he's doing really well in terms of the type of work that he's doing, in terms of the clients he's getting. So they were both approached by investors, and this is what I wanted to share with our community: is when your business is doing well, it's good for you, of course. You've demonstrated that you're good at what you do, and then you also have a revenue and you have clients, and maybe there's an opportunity to grow, and that attracts others who maybe don't have the skills that you have, but they have funds, they have access to funds. So these two founders, again, two separate founders, they don't know each other, they just happen to have reached out to me recently. They both are now thinking through this major decision for their business. Do they take on the investment or they do not? And then if they decide to do it, because it sounds like a good idea to grow the business and hire more people and work on larger projects and all that good stuff that additional funding brings in, they're not sure about a couple of important things: is how much money to take, and then what sort of equity uh, share of the business they should be giving to the investor. And that's something that we probably should dedicate an entire episode on that. But just briefly, if you have if you even have a good business, and you have some revenue, and you have some clients, and you have a very specific, maybe sought after skill set, you will attract you'll attract better customers, you'll attract people who want to work for you, great talent, and you'll also attract investors. So what I say in this case, when people want to invest in the business, in your business, is think of business partners and even investors. It's a relationship. Aside from the specifics of the money and the investment and the shares, it is a relationship, because once money exchanges hands, the other party or the other parties, they will want to be involved in the business. They will want to maybe have a say in the major decisions, or maybe sometimes in the small decisions. So it's important to understand that these partnerships, these relationships with investors or potential business partners, they're like any other personal relationship in a way. They're like a marriage. So you have to make sure the important things are agreed upon, the values, the direction, general direction of the business. You also want to know what each party is bringing to the table, to this new venture. So who will be doing what? um, Someone doing sales and marketing, and someone is doing delivery. Someone is bringing in new leads, someone is thinking strategically, someone is tactical. So all of that is really important to discuss with a potential business partner or a potential investor. Who is doing what, and then what resources each party is bringing to the table. And last is when you start to talk about equity, about how much equity should I give you? If now I own my own business 100%, you're bringing in, let's say, $100,000. Should you get 10%, 20%, 30%, 50%? It all depends. So there's no really like one magic formula that you can apply and say, okay, here's who gets what. And obviously there's a bit of negotiation. But I think before, like these two friends, two founders who had reached out, they were discussing equity way too early in my mind. And that's my advice, that's my recommendation to founders, to our listeners, our community here. At a stage when you are attracting investors, or maybe you're seeking investors, make sure you do these two things first before you talk about equity. One is make sure that it's that relationship and the people you will be spending a lot of time with, the goals, and there's alignment on what you want to do with the business, and who will have a say over what, and then agree on which party, what each party is bringing to this venture, not just their time and money, but also what other resources it could be. They could bring other investors, they could bring leads, they could bring potential clients, potential partners. So to have those discussions and spend some time, and then also before you talk about and finalize any equity discussion, you have to bring a competent attorney, an attorney who has done maybe mergers and acquisitions, and they know about business settings. So that those are things that I think are important for your business if you are thinking of getting investors or you are being approached by investors. So that is something that, again, I like to share these stories. I speak to 1 to 2 founders every week on the average, and a lot of, I feel like these issues that pop up come up, and I end up providing some recommendation for. I believe they're of benefit to the community. So if you have a specific issue on your end, feel free to go to Ferris, to startupwithferris.com, and sign up for a 30-minute session. No gimmicks, no pitches. It's free. It's for you to sign up and share your ideas, or bounce off an idea, or maybe an initiative, or just let me know about maybe the big or the small wins you're having, and I'll be your biggest supporter, right? So for now, though, we want to cover pricing. So we spent, I think, the last 5 weeks, and this is week 6, on pricing. It's an important topic for businesses. We talked about how to position your offering in a unique way, how to stand out from the crowd, how to really differentiate, maybe in your quality of delivery, in your speed of delivery, maybe differentiate on pricing, whatever the case might be. This differentiation is in my mind a prerequisite to any pricing discussion that you wanna have, and you wanna set up for your business. Then we talked about um, when you're just starting out, when you're just maybe entering a new market, or where maybe you're trying to penetrate a higher tier of clients. You've been working with small businesses, now you want to work with mid-size, or maybe get to the Fortune 1000. So they're also, I had an episode on what to do in that case, and I'll give you the I'll give you the tip right now. Just sell in that scenario. And then in the subsequent episode, we talked about the 7 models. We talked about the hourly based model, pricing model, the project based, the value based, tiered pricing, retainer pricing, productizing, and also performance. And in each of these episodes, we covered the pros and cons of each model. We also covered an example of how you'd use that model, and then in that example, like when to use it in a specific maybe scenario, or in a specific growth stage for your business. So, and then last week we covered that sort of the mixing and matching. You're not set to stick with one pricing model for the rest of your life. You can try hourly for a while, and then maybe you move to project based, or vice versa. And at times you can actually offer more than one pricing model. All of that was detailed out last week. So if you want to dive deeper into any of these, we will leave the links to all of these live streams in the description below. And then again, would be more than happy to hear your thoughts on this. And today, as I said earlier, I want to examine 2 criteria and show you actually with the graphics that we've prepared for you, on deciding which of these seven pricing models, or maybe there's some variations of these models, which of these models is best for you at that current stage of your business, and then which models you want to maybe look ahead for as you're growing. And then I want you to decide. I want you to take a look at this matrix that we'll provide you with, and we'll have a link for that matrix. And again, share with us any comments, any questions. Maybe there's a model that you're thinking of that maybe we didn't cover in detail. So let me know what you're thinking about the content that we are sharing with you, and about the ideas and the recommendations. And if there's something that you feel we haven't covered, let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer those. Either privately send me an email, or direct message me, or we can add it to our next live stream where we answer questions that come to us from the community. All right, so let's jump right in. So the pricing matrix, and I'll be sharing my screen here throughout the session today. Let's see right here. So I have here the graph, and hopefully you can see it. Yeah, let me double check. Everyone can see it. So since your business will be going through various stages of growth, I felt this is the one way to visually describe what the way I want you to think about the business, about pricing. So for example, you'll see on here. Let me go. Well, right there now you can see it. On the y-axis here, on the vertical axis, this is where we talk about your domain expertise. So you could be a novice, you're just starting, and you don't have a whole lot of expertise in that specific domain, be it HR consulting, be it financial advisory, it could be IT consulting, it could be trimming services, whatever the service is. You in your domain, and maybe when you look around you, you want to be objective in determining whether you're a novice, or maybe you're sort of intermediate or proficient, or you're an expert. You've done the reps. You really mastered this domain. So that's how we will look at pricing models in terms of your level of expertise in your domain. So that's one side of it. That's one of the criteria. And then the second part is the x-axis here, and this is about your and your company's capabilities in sales, in marketing, and also in operations. And what we have here: starting, building, and scaling. And think about it. When you just start a business, maybe you don't have a project management tool, you don't have a way to track hours, you don't have checklists and processes. Even if you're great at sales, maybe you don't have a CRM yet. So even if you're good at marketing or good at sales, a lot of what businesses use today, we all use a lot of tech, a lot of software solutions to help us run our businesses more efficiently and more effectively. So it's important to also assess your own capabilities in terms of sales and marketing. How much of that have you done, and also the systems that you have to support your sales and marketing activities. So this is the matrix, and then we'll show you um, each pricing model and where it fits in this matrix here, or over in this episode. So one thing, obviously, one big disclaimer before we go into the details, is that, I mean, a lot of these frameworks, a lot of these conceptual, these visualizations, they're a framework, and they apply most of the time, but there are always exceptions. So I want you to think about it with that in mind. Is it's sometimes really hard to self-assess your competency, or maybe, am I starting, am I building, am I scaling? I think if you speak with 5 competitors, you'll know. If you speak to other people who've been around around for a few years, that you'll know where you stand, compared to them. But if you want to have one way to, for example, assess, let's say, your domain expertise, you can use what Malcolm Gladwell popularized, and that is the 10,000 hour to mastery concept. So let's say you're you have anywhere between 0 to 1,000 hours, I would say then you're a novice. And if you're approaching that 10,000 hours of doing work and learning about that domain, you're probably close to an expert. And if you're anywhere between 1,000 and maybe maybe a couple of thousand to 8,000, you're maybe in the middle. You're proficient. So think about it that way. Again, it's not a magic formula that you can plug in and say, okay, I'm a novice. It's think of it as a general guide to help you, again, select the price model, to select which projects to work on, which clients to go after, and then what pricing model to use. Now, let me give you an example. So it'll help us bring these theoretical concepts to reality and to practice. So let's say Frank has a strong background in one type of financial assets, or like an asset class, say real estate, and he's doing well in this business where he's advising clients in investing in this specific category, and selling and buying and investing in real estate. But say sooner than later, he wants to expand the scope of his service offering, and he wants to cover other financial categories. He wants to be able to provide advisory on I don't know, equities and stocks, on crypto, on collectibles and precious metals. So he wants to really master that domain. So that's going to take him some time. And he knows that when he expands his portfolio, or he expands his types of services that he can offer advice on, he will attract clients with a higher net worth, and that means more profits for him. So very strategic. Frank is very strategic, and he knows what he wants to do. So in that example above, where Frank, he knew one part of that larger financial investment space, I would place him and his competence. I would place his competence and domain competence in the novice category, given that, again, he only knows one part of that broader space. Now, in a few years, after he learned, after he gradually started to manage new asset classes for many clients, and maybe after he's getting his certified financial planning certification, he can then be an expert in that category. So that's just an example. I'm not providing, and again, I don't think there exists a scientific formula to help you place your business in the exact spot on this graph, but use it as a general guideline to help you place yourself, again, objectively, where you think it best fits on this graph. So novice, proficient, and expert from a domain expertise perspective, and then from a capability, sales and marketing and operational capability, starting, building, and then scaling. So let's pause here and see what questions we have. Why shouldn't I try to get a retainer, even if I'm not really an expert in the service I'm offering? So this might have been a question from last week, because we talked about or I talked about mixing and matching. I mean, the question on retainer, a lot of customers, when they come to you for a retainer, meaning it could be a fixed retainer, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, or it could be based on a set number of hours, anywhere between 5 and 10 hours a month at a fixed hourly rate, and that's just going to be a retainer between you and your client. So a lot of times people come to you for a retainer when they've realized, or they've sensed, and they've seen that you've demonstrated your expertise in that field, and then they want to use your services. So I would say, if you're not an expert in the service you're offering, I think a retainer model isn't probably a good initial fit. I'm a big proponent of recurring revenue, of retainers, because of all the benefits we discussed, and I'll touch on in a bit. But initially, early on, I think you want to just know a little bit more about the services that you're offering, and how to package them profitably before you start to sell the retainer type, or sell use the retainer pricing model. And we'll cover. I want to cover the retainer, each of the models actually separately. So we'll get to answer this in more details here in a little bit. Okay. Um, so if we go back to the matrix, uh, like I said, some of these processes, like a retainer, as I said, it's going to require some expertise. But as we go through some of these other pricing models, and why is this capabilities component important to pricing? Because if you don't have the system to track the systems or the processes to track what you do and to report on what you do to customers, it's going to be really difficult to demonstrate that you know what you're doing in the pricing model that you're choosing. So enough on that. Let's just go into every one of these pricing models that we have, um, and go over where they fit. So the first pricing model that we talked about is the time-based model, is what we would call, in the example I use, is the hourly project, or the hourly based pricing. So and hourly and project, actually they work the same way in this matrix. So in my assessment and in my experience in the many ventures, I think hourly and project, they work at any phase of the business. So whether you're a novice and starting, or you're an expert and scaling, you can still profitably sell an hourly based project, or an hourly based contract, or a project based contract. So think about it again, for those of you maybe who were not with us previously, in the last few episodes. Hourly, time based, is basically uh, you're selling a set number of hours, or maybe a set number of days, um, at a specific hourly rate, and they're ideal. That hourly approach is ideal for short-term projects, or when the scope of work is unclear, or maybe there's just a lot of unknowns. So, excuse me. When there are a lot of unknowns, it's hard to say, okay, I'm going to do this project for $5,000. You don't know how many hours it's going to take you, right? So hourly is ideal in my mind for short-term projects, or if you have ongoing a long-term engagement, and it's you tell your client, or the client tells you that I want to use your services. I'm not sure if I need 5 hours or 10 hours, but it'll be anywhere between 5 and 10 hours at this rate. So hourly is really good, and then you can again use it, I think, in any and all stages of the business. And some companies, some clients will only buy from you based on hourly, because they want to be able to get a report on where you're spending your time. So keep that in mind. As your business grows, it doesn't mean you have to move away from hourly. You might just have to use it for specific cases in the future, when clients dictate that they want you to bill them hourly. Now, project based, as I said earlier, like hourly based pricing, can be used, I think, I believe, in all these different phases of the business, and in the various level of expertise. So project based, as we defined it before, it is when I think they're ideal when the deliverables are clearly defined, and then the roles and responsibilities for both you as a vendor and for the client are well documented. Everybody knows what they're doing. You're telling the client, you'll provide me with access to systems, you'll provide me with detailed requirements, you'll provide me with access to maybe your stakeholders, the different managers in your company, so I understand what the pain points are. So that's on the client's end, and then on your end, you will deliver. Okay, I will do an audit. I will deliver an audit document. I then will share my recommendations, and then I will share with you a roadmap on how to implement those recommendations. So that's very clear. And then you also define the milestones, timelines. You'll define any dependencies, any prerequisites. So when things are well defined, I think project-based pricing is a good model to adopt. And I think, um, and then you can apply it at any phase of the business. Keep it in mind that if there are a lot of unknowns and you don't know, like it's a new area of the business, maybe new vertical that you're getting into, or maybe new tier of clients you're getting into, there'll be a lot of gotchas, and then you might be able spending double the estimated hours that you planned for, and then you might end up not even breaking even, as we demonstrated last week. So this model, again, project based, is good when there's a clear definition of the scope, the timeline, the expectations, everybody's responsibilities. And I think I've done project based pricing a lot, actually. We ended up initially we lost I think we lost our shirt on a few projects because we didn't know what we were doing and we did not scope the project well enough. But over time, I think this model could be more profitable than hourly because you're not tracking. There's no overhead on tracking the hours, and then the client is getting what they're looking for. So there's peace of mind there that it's a fixed cost. They know exactly what they're getting, and then on your end, whether you do the work in 10 hours or 5 hours or 20 hours, it's really up to you. So the more efficiently you do this project, the more profit you have for you. So again, with this matrix you see on the screen here, you can use hourly based pricing and project based pricing more or less at every phase of the business and at every phase of domain expertise. Again, you see this just sell right there at the bottom left corner. Like if you're early, like if you don't have any customers, like if you don't have 3 to 5 customers, don't worry about any of these models. As I said in the previous episodes, initially, don't worry about pricing. Just sell, because you got to get the reps, you got to get the project, you got to deliver, you got to build that confidence. So that's why I kept this just sell right here in the bottom left to remind us, for those who are just starting, don't worry too much about the pricing models. You can get to it after maybe you have 3 or 4 or 5 clients. All right, good. So next we'll cover the third pricing model, and that is the value based. So value based is where you're not charging by the hour or maybe the level of effort. Maybe you're one of the very few subject matter expert, the SMEs, and you're a master of your domain, and you can come in and fix a specific issue or solve a problem very quickly, very efficiently, and then you charge a premium. And we covered a lot of this in their respective episode. So this is value-based pricing is a thing. It's not something that people just read about in sales books. I've done it in few cases. It's harder than others to sell, but once you achieve mastery, you can do this value-based pricing. Now, when to use this model. So if you look at this chart here, and we're going back and forth with the chart, I would say from a domain expertise perspective, I would not recommend value-based pricing if you're just still figuring things out in your own domain. So if you're a novice, or even if you're proficient, sort of intermediate, I would not recommend value-based pricing. Clients will sense through it, will see through it very quickly, that you kind of don't know what you're talking about. You won't be able to impress them. You won't be able to demonstrate maybe case studies or success stories you've done in the past. So I would say, as you approach that expert level in your domain, that's when I think value-based pricing would be applicable. And then from a sales and marketing and operational capability, I think again, and I would not advise for you to do this initially. Maybe as you're growing, as you're building, after maybe your 20th client, or some magic number around there. Once you've done the reps, and you have a repeatable way to do things, and you really understand the issues of your clients in your space. So this is typically done like in a niche space. So once you understand the client's business and the and how you impact the bottom line of the client in a very positive way, or how you save the client a whole lot of expenses. I think clients are open. Some clients, not all of them, are open to buying from you at a premium, because they'll get their issue resolved, and they know that they're getting an expert to do that for them. So to summarize here, you need experience to really and expertise to be able to deliver on what you promise in this value-based pricing. So keep that in mind as you're working towards selling at this premium value. Before we go to the fourth pricing model, the tier-based model, just a quick break here to remind those of you who are just maybe joining and tuning in. We've covered each one of these pricing models in the previous episodes. So I'm going through them quickly here. So if you feel this is too much, or you have a specific question about it, obviously, leave us a question. But if you are interested in any one of those specific models, we did cover them in a whole lot of detail with pros and cons and examples and when to use them in the previous episode. So we have all those links for you. We'll have them in the description below. All right, back to the different models. So we are on the fourth model, and that is tier-based pricing. So in this model, think of you offering these services at different levels. I'd say silver, gold, platinum. And then for each level, you have a corresponding pricing point. You can also think of it, I've seen it where it's not just I have this package and this package and this package. You can do volume-based tiering. So if clients buy from me, if you buy from me 10 hours a month, it'll be 150. If you buy 15 hours, it'll be at 135. And if you buy 20 hours plus, it'll be at $120 an hour. So you can use volume-based in different ways, but these are examples. So I wouldn't recommend you do, if you're thinking of packaging and tiering your offering, I wouldn't recommend an elaborate tiered pricing structure for early stage providers. Don't go and offer like 7 different packages. Now that'll be just too confusing for everybody, including you and your team. So especially if you're a novice in your field, it just might be too difficult, too challenging to track the different levels of services associated with the different tiers that you have. Also, I think from a market positioning, it might be the tiered pricing model. It does require careful segmentation and how is this tier better and adds more value to the client. And if you're just new, you might not have a comprehensive understanding of the different needs of the market. So you might package a bunch of things together that are not that of perceived value to the client. So there's I think a lot of domain knowledge required for you to do tiering properly. So when is it a good time to use the tiered pricing? So here you go. Well, I can't find my graph right here. All right. So it is when I would say, not as a novice, as I said, not when you're starting, but I think anywhere once you have proficiency, one sort of intermediate level of domain expertise and higher, and then also when you've had maybe again 15, 20 clients, and you have a good understanding of what's involved and all sort of the things that resonate well with the clients, and you have some systems and processes to be able to track those 5 clients are in tier 1, and then those other 5 clients are in tier 2, and you set up systems within your company to address the needs of those clients accordingly. So for example, if you've done, let's say in terms of just support, you've done 9 to 5 for your base tier, and then the premium tier you're offering 24/7. So you have to have systems in place to be able to deliver on your promises. So again, I would not recommend this tiered pricing if you're starting and if you're a novice. But later, as you build some processes and some systems, and as you become stronger, better at your in your domain area, in your area of expertise, tiered pricing would definitely be a good fit. Good, good, good. So that's on tiered pricing. Let's see if we have any comments. And Shuruk, thank you so much for joining. And that just sell thing, yes, just sell. If you're starting out, you just gotta sell. Pricing is secondary, and we have a whole episode on that. Okay, so retainer-based pricing. So that model is about where your clients, they pay you a fixed and sometimes a variable fee on a recurring basis to retain your services. It's basically like having a subscription of ongoing support and access to your expertise and support. So I think this retainer, let me go to it. The retainer, in terms of when to use it, here you go. I think you can use it across across all area, all growth areas. I remember when we first started way back then, when we were doing web design services and online marketing services, the whole thing about having a website and where to host the website, that was a thing at the time. So we had a third party hosting provider, and they would charge us like $24 a month to host a basic website, not like an e-commerce website. And then we would and people just did not know and did not want to. Most of the clients, the small business owners we used to work with, they did not want to deal with hosting companies, and they didn't even understand the technology and what hosting is. So we removed all that those pain points and said, okay, we'll package and we'll sell you monthly hosting at $99 $99 a month. So we were getting charged $24 or $19 a month, and then we were selling this for $100, $99, basically netting anywhere, $75, $80 a month. Now that's not a big thing, but if you had 50 of these clients in say 6 months, that recurring revenue becomes a good thing. It gives you some stability in your business in terms of revenue prediction and revenue projection. So even if you're starting, I would say there are ways to start building a retainer. I wouldn't recommend large retainers early on, because you don't really know all that's needed to satisfy the needs of the clients. But I think if you are a consultant and a service provider, and you offer a part of what you offer, maybe a software, a tool, or something that you resell, or you get a cut from, there's an affiliate program, or there's sort of a monthly fee that is charged to the client, and you get, let's say, 10% of that. I think early on you can bundle this into your contract. So if you're an accountant and you have a relationship, let's say with, I don't know, ADP or one of the payroll services, and you can potentially, as you bring on new clients and they're looking for a payroll service, you can have them sign up through your affiliate program, and then you make $2 for every payroll that they run. But over time, if you have, like, again, 50 clients and you're making $100 a month from each client, that could be a nice recurring. So again, I'm elaborating more. Maybe we covered a lot of this in a previous episode, but for those of you who are just dialing in, you can, I think, build that retainer model from an early stage in your business, assuming, again, a little bit about the space, and who the vendors and who the suppliers are, and what clients are looking for on an ongoing basis. You can package that in a retainer that you sell to your clients. And again, I really I'm a big proponent of the retainer pricing, because we built a number of our businesses based on recurring revenue, both from our consulting services and also a license or licenses that we were reselling at the time. So that's something that you can grow gradually, and then that consistent, that month in, month out, you're getting that $5,000, $10,000. Yes, there could be some churn. Some people might be leaving, some clients might be leaving, but overall, you have a stable level of income where you can actually hire and you can, it helps you grow because you know that that revenue is coming in. All right. Now, in terms of the next, so that's number 5. Number 6 is productization, or to productize your services. So it's similar to tiered pricing, and I'll just explain it quickly, and then we go to the graph. Um, think of taking 3 things that you do all the time, all the time, all the time. Let's say you're a trainer and you provide, or maybe coaching, and you always end up doing, you train new managers on how to deal with, let's say, conflict resolution. So you find yourself doing the same training every engagement, that initial basic training all the time. So what you can do is you can take that training and write a script and produce a video or 2 or 3, and package this as an online training course that you can sell for, let's say, $199 a month, or you can sell it, monthly, or you can sell it, as a one-off. And that is taking something that is services based training, and packaging that into something that people can buy as they buy a product. So that's what product based pricing is. Now, in terms of when to use it, kind of showed you that earlier. Again, I believe it's not something you want to do early on when you're just starting, and it's not something you want to do if you don't know your space and your domain really well. So more sort of the upper tiers, in terms of, you've built some business, you built your business, you have 15, 20 clients, you've done the reps, you have some processes, and then your domain knowledge at a proficient level. I think productization is a good pricing model to use. And then, so don't attempt that too. It's very tempting to try some of these models early on, because as a new business owner, you're not sure. You watch a YouTube video on recurrent revenue is the best thing, and I should do it. But again, if you don't have the prerequisites, if you haven't built the muscles to sell and to price at a specific, using a specific model, I think it might end up you might end up with clients who are not happy. You might be misreading the market and what people perceive, in terms of value. So again, I think productization. Um, don't use it if you're still figuring things out, and you don't know what you don't know, in terms of packaging, in terms of delivery, in terms of expectations, in terms of the gotchas. So other than that, I think is productizing is a great scalable pricing model for these higher levels of, on both axes. So that is on productization. We have one more. We have the performance based pricing. So before we get there, let's see what questions we have. So in our graph, we talk about operational capabilities. So the question here is, what kind of operations capabilities are you referring to? So in all the graphs we showed earlier, the x-axis, the horizontal axis, is about your capabilities in sales, marketing, and operations. And I have it starting, building, and scaling. So operations, if you look at the examples we mentioned earlier, whether it's tiered pricing or whether it's, let's say, retainer, some of these systems, some of these pricing models, sorry, they require systems so that you're effective. So if you are tracking, for example, the example I used earlier was the phone support. So you want to tell a set of clients that you can call me 9 to 5, and then you want to have another set of clients, the premium clients, where they can call you maybe, I don't know, 8 to 8, or they can do 24/7. So how do you set that up in your system? So especially as you're building and growing your business, you'll have team members. So your team members have to know, because they're the one who will be taking the calls. They will need to know how to properly and politely set the expectations with clients. If if your level or tier one, your silver level client is calling at midnight, they didn't pay for that access to your resources. So you have to have system. And again, this is an example of how you have to track these different tiers and the different features you offer, and the different your obligations to the client based on those tiers. So if you don't have maybe time tracking, if you don't have maybe some task management tools, if you don't have a nice detailed out workflow in whichever system you use, whether it's Notion or Asana or Basecamp, like having checklists, having workflows, I think those are all indicators of your readiness to take on, your readiness and your operations capabilities to take on these pricing models, to apply these pricing models in these upper tiers. I hope that's helpful. So, and again, let me know in the comments, and email us or direct message me if you have a specific question. Especially, if for those of you who are listening or watching, if you have a question, you feel shy, or you don't want to share maybe something that's proprietary or something that is important to you, you don't want to share that publicly. So you can direct message me, and then I keep all that confidential. We don't share this publicly without your permission, anyhow. But if it's more of a general comment or question, please leave it in the comments below so others can see it. And then if you're having these issues, I'm pretty sure others do as well. So we can then respond publicly and benefit the community. All right. The last model that we've covered, and then I want to talk to you about in terms of when to apply it, it's performance-based pricing. So this is interesting, very interesting model. And basically, when you're impacting the bottom line for the customer, you're getting paid or paid more. So that's performance. As you perform, as you deliver results, tangible results for the client, you get paid. So this this model should only be used by businesses with a track record of delivering consistent results. And then they also have a high level of expertise in their field and maturity in their systems and operations, as I just said. So to use this model, the performance-based model, you really need to have a clear understanding of the client's objectives. What is it that they want to accomplish? Because you're getting paid based on meeting those objectives or helping meet those objectives. And you also want to have in your company the ability to measure that performance effectively. And there also has to be sort of, I don't know how tangible this could be, but that trust between you and the provider, you as a provider and the client, there has to be some level of trust, a strong level of trust between the two parties, I think, for this model to work properly. And all of the above, they're usually hard to achieve early on in the business. And even like in your mid-level of growth, I think those are really hard. So that's why if we go to the graph, you'll see here I placed performance in the upper right quadrant or section. It's not they're 9 cells here. So what I'm recommending, or you only use performance-based pricing when you've scaled and you've have some repeatable processes and systems in place, and you've done, I'm hesitant to specify a specific number of client. I don't want to say 50 clients, but you repeatedly perform well, and you understand the space really well. So you're an expert. Then you've gone through like 95% of the gotchas. So there shouldn't be any new surprises in there, any surprises there. So I would definitely recommend not recommend using this performance-based model early on or even mid-level. And you have some clients, some very savvy clients, and sometimes some not so nice clients. They want you they want to pay you based on your performance. I don't want to say they want to take advantage of you, but to them it's less risk, right? They're paying you when you perform, and that's a fair argument. The concern there, what I want to caution you is about is that a lot of times in this performance-based model, some of the outcomes rely on the client. If the client doesn't do their end of the bargain, you can't really deliver. And I use, I've used many examples when we covered this in the past. But basically, if let's say you manage their, let's say you're a marketing consultant and you do social media and you do paid ads, you run ads on Instagram or Facebook. If you drive traffic to the client's website, so you're responsible to set up the right keywords and the right, audiences and the right segmentation, and you create the ad copy and amazing graphics, you're great at it. And then people click on this ad and they go to the client's website. Let's say, and you don't control the website, the client manages the website, and the website is down, or the landing page is just awful. It doesn't have any call to action. It's too busy. So the conversion rate, people becoming leads or people buying from your client, is going to be impacted, not as a result of you managing that paid campaign, is as a result of the landing page or the website not being there for, not being of a quality, of a high quality, to really convert this traffic into leads. So that is totally out of your control. So that's why I wouldn't recommend this performance based model until you've really done the reps, and you're in that expert level, and you have the processes, and the contract will have to be really detailed out, so that you don't get burned, so that you don't put a lot of efforts and then you're not getting paid. And you're putting the resources, and you might have people working on this client, and then they're not seeing the results, or maybe there's a mismanagement, or there's a the expectations are not aligned between what you think the results are and what the client think the results should be. So that takes all of those factors. It does take a bit of time for you to understand and really apply at your contracts and apply to your delivery cycle. So keep that in mind. If you want to go performance based, I've seen it done really well with, again, paid ads. Some lead generation companies who bring you sales, they use this model. Maybe they charge you a base fee to make sure you're committed, and then every time they bring you a qualified lead, you're paying like X number of dollars. So that is those are good models, for that type of business. Sometimes lawyers, they might be like, can make their like contingency based sort of contracts. If they you win the deal, they get paid more. So there are different ways to apply this performance based. Think about it for your business. And again, you can check out the episode where we covered this in detail to see if it's applicable to you. Let's see what questions we have. If you're just starting out, should your first project be hourly or project based? If you're just starting out, remember what I have in all these graphs. We have just sell. Do not worry about pricing if you are just starting out. And we have a whole episode on this, and I mean it. I'm not saying you have to be careful from a liability perspective that you not end up $10,000 in in the red, but you want to get the sale. You want to build that confidence that you can sell. You want to build a confidence that you can deliver. You want to have the logo on your website that you have a client or two or three. So initially, if you're just starting out, don't worry. If the client wants it hourly, make it hourly. If they want it to be project based, make it project based. I would say the safest one is hourly if you're just starting out. The only thing is, you still have, even with hourly, you still have to set the expectations for the client. Like, if you say, I'll do this work hourly, and the client's going to ask you, what's the estimate? You can say anywhere from 20 to 30 hours. So that's fair. The client is going to trust you, and you tell them, hey, I'm at 20 hours and I need 10 more hours to finish the job. You told them it's going to be 20 to 30 hours. So that's fine. Now, imagine if you told the client it's hourly and it's going to be 20 to 30 hours, and then as you're starting to do the work, you realize the job is going to require 100 hours. So I mean, you're going to lose the confidence and the respect of the client in a way. And initially on, you might want to eat it up and do the work and get a testimonial from that client, and don't whine about you underestimating, right? Because you're the expert. Supposedly, you should have told them it's going to be close to 100 hours, not 30 hours, right? So it doesn't matter initially. Like if you're just starting out, just sell. Just do your due diligence, scope the work, whether it's hourly or project based. Put as we said previously. Detail out what is it that you're doing, what you want the client to do. But if it ends up taking you double the time, just do it. Make the client happy, super happy, delighted. They'll refer you to their friends. So don't worry about it too much if you are just starting out. All right. So now that we've covered all the models, we have an illustration that I want to share with you, and that is actually, it encompasses everything that we've covered today. Basically, it's a one, and we'll have a 2-pager on this. So we'll probably have it available in the next few days and share it on our social media channels. And basically, this could be your cheat sheet if you don't have time to watch any of these live streams. So you can take a look at this pricing model matrix here, and the pricing matrix, and look at, let's say I'm thinking I heard of doing things hourly, and you can see, like, where am I in this business? Am I a novice? Am I proficient? Am I an expert? And then look at where you are from starting, building, scaling, and see where it makes sense for you to use that model. So this will be, again, your cheat sheet to keep handy when you're thinking of pricing, and you can always go back um, to these episodes and to get more details on the specific pricing model that you make. But and we've to make it easier, we've color coded this, so you can see, for example, just to walk you through this, for a project base and for hourly, so you can see that they apply. We put them in every square and every part of this matrix, because you can apply them every time. But for example, for the performance one, this blue one, it's only in that top right cell, because that's my recommendation, is only to do performance when you're really an expert, and you've scaled the business with the processes and the systems. So I hope you find this helpful. We'll be sharing this on social media over the next few days. So be on the lookout and share it with those who might find it beneficial. So some final thoughts here as we wrap up our discussion on pricing. So pricing models, pricing strategies, like many other business functions, they're dynamic and they change and evolve over time. If you adopt, early on, if you adopt a complex model too early, you'll get overwhelmed. You'll not sure what to do. And then if you also delay transitioning to maybe a value-based pricing or maybe performance-based pricing, you might miss out on some really precious revenue. So start with maybe one model, hourly or project based initially. Learn the ropes, get feedback from clients, see what the competition is doing, see what other people, even in different verticals and different businesses, learn from others how they're pricing, and then you can implement the model that you think is most fitting for your business. And don't change. I wouldn't recommend. We do have this, one of our black belt principles is iterate fast, iterate on the go. On pricing, the iteration cycle, it needs to, you want to go through several clients. You want to go through a whole cycle: pitching, selling, delivering, and then measuring your profitability before I don't want you to be changing pricing models with every other client. So you can maybe, in parallel, you can try 3 different models for 3 different clients and see which one is more profitable, assuming everything else sort of is constant. But try it, give it some time, speak with others. Business, especially new businesses, it's all about experimentation, and refine as you see fit. And I think always, be on the lookout for changes, external factors, changes in the marketplace, supply versus demand. As I said, what the competition is doing, your own cost structure, and the feedback you're getting from clients. All of those are signals for you to maybe it's time for us to change the way we're doing things. Okay, so that is it on pricing. I appreciate you tuning in, and we will have again the links to all of the previous episodes and the link to the pricing matrix, that cheat sheet, for you in the description. We still around here. If you still have questions about pricing, email us. You can go to startupwithferris.com. Ferris spelled Feras, like my first name, and you can sign up for our daily advisor there and get tips and strategies on how to build, how to grow, how to scale your business to 7 and 8 figures. And you can also, if you're liking this content, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And would love to hear from you and hear your comments. We will be off next week. It's Memorial Day week next week. So we'll see you the week after with some cool topics. You'll see it. We'll announce it a few days before the next event. And meanwhile, go out there and price profitably and make more money. And let me know how it's going for you. And we'll see you next time.